Hey, all my movie maniacs out there, it's me, Mark the Movie Man, and today we're gonna look at Wrestlemassacre. Okay, I'll stop. Yes, how are you doing, my fans out there and friends of a film? It is that time once again, and we are today looking at a new wrestling horror film called Wrestlemassacre, brought to us by Brad Twigg, who gave us MILFs vs. Zombies. And here we get the story of Randy, who's a groundskeeper. He works for a landscaping company, lawn care company, but he has aspirations of being a wrestler, just like his father was. But unfortunately, he's had a bit of bad luck, and he's not exactly the most straight and narrow type of guy as well. But he really finds roadblocks along the way. Well, when he finally has the tipping point pushed for him and realizing his dream may not come true, he decides to go on a rampage, a bloody rampage, to get back at all of those who had wronged him, said mean things to him, and just in general have not been nice people to him. With a little bit of a demonic flavor thrown in for, well, flavor. Wrestlemassacre. We've got Richie Acevedo in here as Randy. I really loved his performance in here. The Cuban Assassin. A lot of wrestlers show up in this micro-budget indie film. And I do say micro-budget because the production value is of independent, low-budget quality. I'm going to put that in there. And the first, I'd say, half hour of this film, it was a little tough to get into. You don't really connect with the Randy character. I mean, you feel sorry for this guy, sure, but then he'll do a thing or two that'll just make you go, oh man, why are you doing that? So it's interesting because it is being told from the perspective of a guy who eventually is going to go crazy. You also have in here Jimmy Boogie Woogie Valiant showing up in here. He gets in the ring. We get to see him in action and having a good time. At least it seemed to. Manny Fernandez in here shows up as Tito, the Raging Bull. You've got Jessica Creesa in here. Yes, ODB, aka Jessica James, shows up in here. Jim Fullington, as we know him as Sandman, he shows up in here. So there's a lot of interesting, familiar faces if you follow ECW and wrestling in general. So it was great to see them, and many of them pulling off their lines well. Playing the characters that we're familiar with or variations of those, but still, I really enjoyed them. And Nikolai Volkov shows up in here. That was a surprise to see his name in the credits and see him get a scene. So, old Nikolai Volkov. So, it was not only a bit of a twinge of nostalgia seeing all these wrestlers, but the story, it's basic. It's not that deep, though there is some social commentary in here as well. But let me tell you, once the wrestler goes on his crazy rampage, wow, the practical effects in here were so much fun, so well done. They really put their effort into it. I didn't think they were going to go as far as they did with some of these, but they do some pretty extravagant gimmicks in this, and they pull off some really cool, gory effects in here. So mad props to their special effects team in here to really sell it and really up the ante and pull me in just as I was about to check out of this film. Now, there's this subplot with a guy who is in with a loan shark, and we've got his a gang of members who have been harassing him and threatening to kill him if he doesn't pay up. I loved all of those characters. Jason John Beebe, who we've seen in A Grim Becoming, and he's been in others playing a Tex character. He was hilarious. There's just a lot of great characters in here, fun ones, and it does take a little while to get into, but once it gets going, folks, you will not be disappointed if you're an indie fan of wrestling horror that's got gore and really fun practical effects. So that's about what I have. I think it's worth your time if you are a wrestling fan at all. There are actual wrestling moves in here that are done well. It's not just like, No, they actually, there's some pretty wicked, some fun wrestling stuff in here going on, some actual wrestle action. So there you have it, folks. Wrestlemassacre. It's not phenomenal, groundbreaking cinema by any means, but as far as wrestling horror goes, I think it's worth a watch if you're a fan of anyone I mentioned, or indie horror with some good practical gore. And that'll about do it here, folks, for Wrestlemassacre Final Cut. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out our Patreon if you haven't already. I appreciate your support, and until next time, remember, keep that ticket stub.